Hello, and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to read Napoleon and Josephine by Biography of a Wedding. I'm going to show you the spine and the top. I love this. So we are on the Josephine before Napoleon chapters. The regime of Robespierre has ended, but our mother had not yet returned to us. Fuentes de Barmahus wrote, "When a lady of remarkable beauty came one day to call and consoled us with the promise that she would interest herself in our mother's liberation, and a few days later she was indeed restored to us. For their mother's release, upon the earliest, on the 19th, their, Thermidor, August 6th, both Hortense and Eugene always credentialed Talion, and they expressed their gratitude in the form of pension to the ignoble hero of Thermidor, long after he had lost all power, prestige, and fortune. Hortense, lady of remarkable beauty, was Teresa the Fortunate, the very first prisoner, of course, to be released by her lover, Talleyrand. On the vibes of terror on the nerves and the heart had been too long applied to be so suddenly relieved. Paris went from a state of shock until delirium. A typical symptom was the mania for the dance. A dancing plague like that of the Middle Ages seized the capital. Paris commended the end of the dance of death by the opening of 644 public ballrooms. Next to money, the dance is what every Parisian loves, adores, idolizes, wrote Louise Sebastian Mercer. Every class, rich and poor, high and low, dances everywhere. On the Place de la Revolution, hopefully renamed the Place de la Concorde, in the churches, in the formal cemetery of Saint Josephine, renamed Val de Zephyr, in the aristocrat district of Saint Germain. The rage took on a masquerade note, and with its victims' balls, to which the widow Bonaparte was eligible on two counts: as a formal prisoner and as a surviving relative of a victim of the guillotine. The required accoutrements were a coiffures, la guillotine, hair cropped short or lifted up off the neck, and a narrow red satin ribbon encircling the throat. The widow Bonaparte whirled with the rest in the von von vol 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 and delegations of the waltz, recently imported from Germany. She could have walked with General Hosh, where they have walked together in the courtyard of the Khan's prison, once again under new management as another Val de Sang. General Hock release from the conjure had come on August 4th, 2 days before her own. They must have marveled at finding each other again, still alive and still in love. Harsh wrote to the little 16-year-old provisional bride to discourage her from joining him in Catholic. The 3 weeks remained to him there before he set out for his command post with the Army of the West. He could thus devote to the second installment of the romance that had its origin at the crime. He may have led the widow Barnakers to believe that he was considering divorce in order to marry her. Divorce as well as marriage had been reduced to the sketchiest of civil ceremonies. Certainly the widow Balmacars would not have hesitated to marry a man who was highly attracted to her personality and whose prospects were as brilliant as hers were dim. Most gracefully, that autumn, she entrusted to him her 13-year-old son, Eugene, to serve on his staff as junior Orient officer. In the circumstances in which she found herself in 1794, alone in the world, a world unrecognizably new, dismaying, unstable, she would have difficulty enough in providing for two, herself with horses, much less three, in the phantom of that dreadful winter, with people fighting savagely for place in the ever-lengthening breadline. Marie Josephine Rose could thank a friend, as she later said in words intended to be taken literally, for granting me my daily bread. She was the only guest at Madame de Montre's generous board, who was excused from bringing a crust of her own. This frank comment on the vicissitudes of her earlier years made when she had attained to exalted station, would disarm those who might otherwise have been tempted to speak of her dispartially as someone they had known when no revenues were to be expected from her husband's estate, his properties having been either confiscated or sequestered by the state, and none from Martinique was presently under English occupation. Little help would be expected from her aunts and father-in-law, themselves suffering in a wild spiral of inflation. For the ooh, for the 3 previous presiding years, the banker Emery, the Trasher's European agent, had been advancing her small sums against long-awaited vehemency. Without his generosity, I don't know what would have become of me. She wrote her mother in January of 1795, I know your tender heart too well to doubt that you will make all possibility haste to provide me with the wherewithal to live and to pay back the sums I owe. And again in October, I cannot begin to tell you how important it is that you cover this draft, for I have already paid out substantial sums to various friends who had kept me and the children alive. While she waited, she had been reduced to borrowing from Fouché's, presumably, for he later complained in jealous spite that she had levied heavy contributions on him as a lover. From Hortense governess and the governess's brother, from casual friends and acquaintances, signing herself La Page La Venue Widow Barnhart. She left a paper trail of promissory notes, too many to be considered today as collector's items. Bills flustered in her wake like confetti for a carriage hire, for gray Florentine silk taffeta, for multicolored coin-dotted gray silk hose, for, of all things, in that time of want and economic chaos, love. She could not live with her means, never could, never would, not even with the imperial treasury at her disposition, though she lived, as was infinitely more agreeable beyond them. Her struggle for existence was none the less desperate for being occasionally flighty, her winsome appeal and her sweetest feminine blandishments were declined to a pertinent and effective campaign to recover her own and her husband's property from national confiscation. Thanks to Italian and other influential friends to the regiment, the government seals were removed from her Paris apartment and furniture, clothing and jewelry squashed there, since her arrest were restored to her, as were the silverware and the books from Andrew Lloyd's Valley Chateau, its furnishings having already been sold as natural property. The cash equivalent was awarded to her. As for um, but, uh, Your Highness properties in the state, restitution would not be made until 1796, and then only through her persistent penetration at government offices. By the summer of 1795, she could make her daily round of visits to these government offices in a carriage or in pair. Two black Hungarian horses of her own issued her by the War Ministry as compensation for the horses and military equipment abandoned by General Your Highness. With the army of the Rhine, when he had hastily yielded up his command 2 years previously. For this favor, she was not indebted not to Jean Talon, but to Paul Bars, a figure looming somewhere large on the political horizon, and on her own as well was perhaps not entirely a matter of coincidence. Shortly after his rise to prominence as one of the heroes of the Thermidor, as president of the convention and commanding general of the army of the interior, she sent Barras one of the charming little notes she was in the habit of addressing to gentlemen in high public offices. This, an appeal primarily in behalf of one of her numerous charity cases, including an invitation to come to call, and ended archly. It is naughty of you to neglect an old acquaintance. Her political flair was excellent. Bars was destined within the year to hold the most powerful position in the nation since the abolition of the monarchy. The national acclaim and the wild rejoicing at Robespire's overthrow in July of 1794 had furnished convincing proof that France, anguished, exhausted, drained of blood, resources, and energy, required a respite to both terror and anarchy. Even at the risk of surviving some of the gates which had been won by the revolution against absolution and tyranny. To give France the breathing spell she demanded, the Convention in November of 1795 delegated the executive powers it had been unable to wield effectively to a five-man director, with Bars as one of the five directors shortly after the formation. The widow's Barmitude reason with Bars was to be the one most severely reproached by her contemporaries, contemporaries, not to be forgotten, even after her consecutive in Notre Dame. Not even by so loyal a Bonaparte as General Thursday, who deplored the fact that despite her many good qualities and infinite graces, Josephina remained for me as for so many others, the former mistress of bars. It was an official affair. It was an affair she could never live down, for the reason that it linked her name with that of the regiment and of a man contemporary to their own generation, as well as to succeeding ones. The most corrupt of men in an era of utter corruption, the most disinterested of ranks. He would toss the republic out the window tomorrow if he did not pay for his table and his gambling, his dog, horses, and mistresses. Audacity he had, and a sharp intelligence, and a great agility at political maneuver. But not an idol, not a scruple. He did not even seek power for power's sake, but only for the luxuries and privileges it afforded. The principal appeal of the throne he had appropriated was symbolic, the feeling of sitting on velvet. Although he had divested himself of all the trappings of nobility, including the title of Viscount, his apparent tastes and manners remained those of a grand seigneur, handsome, elegant, cultivated. He was the spoiled fruit rather than the flower of that society which had repudiated in 1789 as a political expensive. In contrast to Louis the 15th, right? That's actually a 10, 15, who relaxed all barriers of caste for beautiful female companions, but made no exception in the case of the male. Boris tolerated the vulgarest and cruelest of men, all the parvenu rift-raft of place-seekers and political and intricate, but showed himself uncompromising as to the ladies of his society. These must be ladies of distinction, elegance, and manner. A former viscountess, the Bar- the Baru Harkness, for example, even the infamous Marquise de Sade, a cousin, incidentally of Bar's, took notice of the director's orgies and debaucheries. His peculiar collection of male as well as female favorites, his mistresses and minions. Sadie's Brahma, a clef entitled Zolets et Seducts Alicoes coats, despite the Saturlina of the Luxembourg Palace, with Madame Bonaparteness, represented as Zolo, and Teresa Tallien, and Madame Chat- Chateauneuf as the two aliquots. It is by way of curiosity that no trace of rivalry ever monitors this trio's friendship. Teresa Tallien remained Madame Bonaparte's cher pratique throughout the years of correspondence. Not even Napoleon's iron will could impose an absolute rapture. Three sultanas in Sarajevo could not have more harmoniously shared the favors of po- potent, if indeed there were any favors, in a physical sense to share. Farah's parade of three mistresses at once would seem to cast doubt on his heterosexuality rather than prove it. At times he seemed to protest it overmuch. Certainly I enjoyed intimate relationships with Madame Bonaparteness. In writing my memoirs, I had admitted to the extent such revelation is possible. To a Frenchman brought up in the tradition of chivalry, that she was my mistress. The editor of the Bard's memoirs showed Gallic chivalry greater than that of the author by his delection of a passage in which Bard had expressed his cynical, secret scorn at the sight of the synecophic visitors and pen- pensioners in his saloon, bowing respectfully low to kiss Madame Bonaparte's hand, which was still moist from the water of my marble tub. She acted as Bard's official hostess not only in his Paris saloon, but in her suburban Crossy residence as well. And the neighbors talked. Among them was Eteletta Dennis Pasquier, future Chandler and Duke, who would write in his memoir. Madame de Bonaparte's house was next door to ours at Crossy. She no longer came there often, but only once a week, and then to receive flowers and the numerous bread retinue that followed in his wake. Early in the morning we would see the baskets of provisions being delivered, and later the mounted police would appear to clear the road from Nanterre to Crossy for the young director, who usually arrived on horseback, as is so often the case with Creoles. Madame de Beauhartness's house boasted a certain luxury of equipment, one in which all the superfluities were present, and only the essentials lacking. Fowls, like game, and rare fruits were stacked high in the kitchen, and yes, there was a shortage of saucepans, plates, and glasses, which she came to borrow from her mother's house. A former crossing neighbor, who would also talk later, was young Claire de Verges's, the future Madame de Gramercy. Despite the fact that she wrote her memoirs, she had recouped her family fortune through the same widow, whose going on she so brilliantly and reluctantly recorded. It was by these superb and dis- disloyal memoirs that she repaid her tremendous debt to the Bonaparte, a the very qualities reprehensible in her as a friend and a woman are those most laudable in a biographer. Never wholly responsive to Josephine's confidence and genuosity, Madame de Reminiscence's critical detachment was ideal from the point of view of history. Closely associated with the beautiful Madame Talleyrand, she was introduced into the directorial society where she became a special prodigy of bars. Madame de Remusement recounts Madame de Bon, um, Beauhartness had little money, and her taste for clothes and luxury rendered her dependent on those who could aid her in satisfying such expensive tastes. From this time on, her reputation for good conduct was seriously compromised, and the but is significant in that here, as in most instances of criticism of Josephina's indiscretion, there followed a reference to her kindness, as if to say that both were the product of the same generous, headlong spirit, of the same open heart. For reputation for kindness, sweetness, and grace remained incontestable. Invariably kind and obliging, she more than once, through the agency of her influential friends, rendered valuable services to my father, a fact which accounts for my mother's friendship with her. If at this period of her life Mrs. Bonahartness seriously compromised her reputation by indiscreet relations with men, and by exploration of her charms, the alternate, as she had seen it, was destroyed vociferously and genitally, at best to eke out a drab, hand-to-mouth existence. Behold, to friends for bread and cast-off clothing, and to her father-in-law for the roof above her head, and with little hope of improving her lot. This, at the age of 31, she was disinclined to do. She had enough of insecurity, loneliness, and neglect in youth and marriage. Now, since her recent brush with death, her longing for life was intensified, a life, in her definition, that of a gay, pleasure-loving woman with expensive tastes, to consist of luxury, revelry, and romance. For such a bright new life she was prepared to pay, and she paid a price. Not that her relations with men were necessarily miraculous or distasteful. Host and Bard were two of the most attractive men of their time, and even such an old fogey of an admirer as the Marquis de Coutelencourt was an immense and charming gentleman of the old regime. The moral code of that old regime in which she had been bred provided her no bulwark of virtue. It placed no premium on morality, but only upon the amenities to be observed in its violation. Neither had her personal experience fortified her against the dedicated of the time. Her family circle furnished few edifying examples. Certainly not her father, not her aunt, nor her father-in-law, nor her husband. Her standards of living improved conspicuously at the time of her association with Boris. He taught her to fish in the troubled waters of the post-revolutionary period, to trade on her influence with her friends in high places. His salon was thronged with profilers, black mic- mic- marketeers, unifunctionals, financiers, spectators on the exchange, all eager to pay for information. For an information or a recommendation to administer war of finance. By the autumn of 1795, the citizen Barnard, Bar, Bureauhartness could afford to enroll Eugene at the college Yorlandis and Hortense at the Institutional National de Saint Germain, the most exclusive of girls' academics, which was under the direction of Madame Champagne, former lady and relating to the Marquette, Mary Antoinette, and arbitrator of female elegance to the upstart, social, ambiguous, yeah, post-revolutionary world. By October, Marie Josephine Rose could lease and redecorate a jeweled box of a house on the lower slope of the Bud.
Could you watch it with me?
I will. I'm doing a video right now.
Okay, after your video, I'm going to be watching it.
Okay.
But I'm going to watch one of your favorites.
Okay.
This is probably one of your favorites.
Okay, that's fine.
You can watch them when you're done.
Do you want me to open the chips?
Oh, so. I'm not good get crazy.
By October, Marie Josephine Rose could lease and redecorate a jeweled box of house on the lower slope of the Bud Montmartre on the Rue Chantilly, complete with garden, stable, quarters large, and a staff of 5. And undoubtedly she had become, to meet Barr's standards of fashion and elegance, one of the best dressed women of the capital, or best undressed in comfortability with its latest trends in fashion. The neoclassic for which the designers had found their inspiration in the scanty drapery marble goddesses of ancient Greece and Rome. A filmy knee-length tunic, a la Diane, for a wisp of a shift, a la Ceres, was to be seen any fine day on the Champs-Elysees, and was somehow more startling there than on the Parthenon. Only such reigning beauties as Madame Napoleon or Madame Bureauhartness would have set such a style, which was, of course, promptly decried as indecent by every contemporary with a figure less flawless. Only a Madame Bureauhartness would have dared appear in the costume. I don't want it right now.
Mommy. Mommy.
What?
You.
Yeah. Yeah, you can eat it.
It's a boat scooper hat.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to eat it.
Okay. Described by its designer as a tall
Can
skirt.
you take a picture of it on your phone?
I can't. I don't have any memory right now. Okay? A topsail skirt over waist high. Flesh colored satin tight. Arms embossed bare. Diamond studded gold silklets around the leg and thigh. It was a costume designed for a gala evening, and as such, Maria Josephina Rose might have worn it to a premiere performance at the opera, or the comic Francis to a subscription ball in the great circular gilded and mirrored salon of the hotel, the Thereless Zoo, to a fete in the Bois de Boulogne at the amusement park of the Baguette, formerly the exclusive pleasure ground of the brother of Louis XVI, now open to the public, or that segment of the public which could afford to pay for it. A fairyland at night, with its 100 violins and its 1,000 jewel-colored lanterns gleaming through the trees, as Mercer described it. This was the woman, and this the millennium that General Bonaparte would find in the autumn of 1795, when he was the first summoned upon the national scene by her lover, Boris, to quell the riot in the Tutelia's courtyard at the doors of the convention. And we're going to be doing, next week, we're going to be doing the part 3, which will be interesting and stuff. I'm excited. So we're slowly getting through this, but if you like this, I guess reading, because I'm reading a whole book, it's going to take a while, but you know.
Mommy,
What?
watch.
Oh, good job. Anyway. So, if you like the reading, thumbs up. Subscribe down below. If you haven't, I do book reviews, hauls, and other stuff, and readathon, TBR videos and stuff. So comment about down below if you are excited for the next part. And yeah, that's it for now. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!